Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lesson 40 of the theory class. We are on our very last lesson, so congratulations. You've made it a long way, and I know you have worked hard to get this far. So we're going to end with one last little evaluation, and it's going to be a combination between Lesson 38 and 39. All right, here we go. Ready? Number one is begin. Let's begin. Number two, Wyoming. Let's go to Wyoming. Number three, uh-huh, which means yes. Uh-huh. She said uh-huh. Number four, territory. What is your territory? Number five, further. I have no further questions. Number six, responsible. She is responsible for the work. Number seven, behind. Get behind the seat. Number eight, Rhode Island. Rhode Island is a small state. Number nine, huh-uh, meaning no. Huh-uh, he said huh-uh. Number 10, influential. He was influential in her decision. Number 11, anxious. We are anxious to finish the class. Number 12, Texas. Have you been to Texas? Number 13 is 3/4. I filled it up 3/4 of the way. Number 14, 1/10. Only 1/10 passed the class. And number 15, 4/6. 4/6 of the class began the race. All right, let's go ahead and look at those. See how you did. Number one is begin, and that's going to be written with the G short I-N. Number two, Wyoming, W long I twice. Number three, uh-huh, yes, U-F, U-F. Number four, territory, T-E-R-T, tert. Number five, further, F-U-R-T. Number six, responsible, S-P-O-N-L. Number seven is behind, H short I-N-D. Make sure you write it with the short I, otherwise it would conflict with hind, like the dog's hind legs. Number eight is Rhode Island, R short I, R short I. And the reason why I think that we write that, or the book has us write it with the short I, is because a lot of people choose to write proper names twice. So then Rye, meaning Ryan, could be written as R long I, Rye, even though we write it out. But that's why I think that's the reasoning for that, Rhode Island being a short I. Number nine, huh-uh, meaning no, H-U-F, H-U-F, huff, huff. Number 10, influential, F-L-U-N-L. Number 11, anxious, A-N-G-S. Number 12, Texas, T-E-X, T-E-X. Okay, now the last three are going to be fractions. So we always flag the first number of the fraction. So we've got 3/4. So that's going to be written as T-H-R long E with the flag. Come back for K-W-A-U-R. Come back for final Z, 3/4. Then we have 1/10. W-U-N with the flag, and then come back for T-E-G-T. Then the last one is 4/6. Kind of hard to say that with the plural there. 4, F-O-U-R with the flag. Come back for S-I-K-T, and then come back for final Z. So you still want to come back for final Z because that is a plural. Okay. Again, if you struggled with that, then go back and practice before you move on to the last lesson. So this last lesson, we're going to be tackling contractions. It's not as long as some of the other lessons, so that's nice. We also have quite a few new briefs in this lesson, so even though it's not long, you do need to practice it before you go into speeds or before you even take your final. This is very important. You really need to know your contractions. It's so important to write the correct way that things are said, whether they say I've or I have. You need to reflect that in your writing. So we write everything phonetics. You're going to write it exactly as you hear it. So that in a test, if you write I've, but I say I have, that would be -1. So it's very important you get that down. Don't just, shake that off as, I wrote I'll, even though they said I will. That would be -1 on the state test as well, and the RPR. Okay, so let's look at lesson 40. We've got the first line there. They all start with I. Notice that they're all long vowels, and that's how we write. Typically, we write a contraction with a long vowel. So we've got I've, long I-V, I've, as opposed to I have. Then we have I'll, long I-L, as opposed to I will, which is short I-L. That's why we have you, in the beginning of theory, write I as a short I, or I will, short I-L, because of this, the contractions. Now, notice down below, it says I'll, and that's spelled A-I-S-L-E, and that means a passage between row of seats. Walk down the aisle, and you'll notice that that's written as initial Y, long I-L. Okay, initial Y, long I-L. That's how the difference between those two. And then Isle, as referring to an island, a small island or a peninsula. Notice that that one is flagged, long I-L with the flag. That one's, Isle is probably not going to come up as much, I-S-L-E. You're typically going to hear island before you would hear that, so that's the one that we flag. All right, then we have I'd like to meet you, long I-D, as opposed to I would, and, which would be short I, and then come back for W-O, I would. Then we have I'm, long I-M, as opposed to I am, and then we have to flag that so it doesn't conflict with the prefix I am. All right, line 2, we've got you've, long U, final V, you've, as opposed to you have. Then we have you'll, long U, final L, you'll, as opposed to you will. Then we have you'd, long U-D, as opposed to you would, or you had. Now, the last one, we've got your, long U-R, contraction your. Okay, you're going to be next. Now, if I were to say your car is on the road, that would not be a contraction. That would be the possessive your. Okay, so then you would write it as Y U R. Okay, so practice those. Then line 3, we've got weave, W long E final V, we've just begun. Wheel, W long E final L. Weed, we'd like to go but we can't, W long ED. Notice right down below, weed as in pull the weed out of the ground, or he got busted for weed. That one is going to be flagged, W long E with the flag D. Okay. We're, W long ER, we're. as opposed to we are. Line 4, he's. Again, notice the long vowel, long E-Z, as opposed to he is, which would just be E-S. He'll be here soon, long E-L. He'd, long E, final D. She's, S-H, long E-Z, she's. She'll, S-H, long E-L, she'll, as opposed to she will, which is a short E. She'd, S-H, long E-D, she'd. Line 6, they've just begun, T-H, long A, final V, they've, as opposed to they have. Notice that we use the long A for they've. They'll, again, we're using a long A, T-H, long A-L, as opposed to they will, T-H-E, final L. They'd, T-H, long A, final D, they'd. And their, T-H, long A, final R. Line 7, it's, the contraction. It's going to be a nice day. Initial T, final Z, it's. As opposed to, next to it, the possessive. Its tail got caught in the door. That's going to be written as I-T-S. Okay, possessive. Practice those. Then we've got theirs, the contraction. T-H-R, final Z, theirs. R is on the initial side. Then we have theirs, talking about possession. That's going to be T-H, final R, final Z, theirs. Okay, just like their car broke down would be T-H, final R. So we're doing the same thing with theirs, possession, or possessive, T-H, final R, and then final Z. Line 8, that's, T-H-A, final Z, that's. What's, W-H-A, final Z. When's, W-H, final Z. Where's, W, final R, final Z. Line 9, who will go with us? W-H-O, final L with the flag. There's really no other way we can do that, so we have to flag it, because who will is just W-H-O-L, so we have to flag who will. Same with that'll, like that'll be the day. We write that will as T-H-A, final L, so that'll we have to flag, T-H-A, flag L. And those two don't come up as much, but please practice them like you do the others. All right, so looking on over at 40.2, we've got practice sentences using our new contractions. And 40.2 actually is going to be a couple pages. At 40.2, actually it's 2.5 pages, all right? Now, I want you to go to the second page, 40.2, that's continued. The second sentence down, it's actually line 18, the first sentence over. It says, Charles said that's okay. Charles is going to be written as K-H-A, flag, R-L-Z, Charles. Unless you say Charles, you hear the S, you can use the S, but make sure you flag it. Okay, Charles. All right, and then the third page of 40.2 continues. Again, there's really nothing to point out. Everything is pretty much covering our new contractions. 40.3, we've got punctuation. All right, so we've got the dash. We have talked about this when we first learned the Q&A. The dash is the only ending punctuation that we can use in Q&A because typically our sign changes, for the most part, will add them for us. And then if it's the wrong sign change, we would correct it in the edit mode after a test. But anytime anybody gets cut off or they have a train of thought that changes, you would use a dash. And the way we write that is by striking O-E, O-E. So twice, O-E, O-E. Okay, so it says O-E, O-E for the dash. And then the word dash, if you hear dash, you would write it as D-A-R-B, dash. Okay, so let's look at some of these sentences. He said that he thought, and then they have a change of thought. He really thought that to be true. So here's a great example of somebody changing their thought or kind of repeating what they said. It's going to be surprising how much people change their train of thought. You are going to really notice that, especially when you get out into the real world and you are writing, and you notice a lot of people will start to say something and then they move on to something else. So if you are on top of the speaker, if this were a test and you are right on top of the speaker, you can throw in your dashes. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you're taking a test and you are still having a hard time with that speed, I'm going to suggest to you not to throw in your dashes. You can always put the dashes in when you are editing your test. You're not going to get any extra points for throwing them in. So you can do that. You'll have, you've got 2 hours or an hour and a half to get your test edited. So that would be the time to put in the dashes. The most important things that you want to remember when you're taking a test in speeds is getting the words, because each word that you get wrong or you drop or don't get would be -1. And then if you miss a sign change, that would be -5. So don't worry about the dashes, especially if it's you're trying to get a test and moving to the next speed. Okay, this would be more if you're trailing and you're in another speed that you've already really mastered and you're right on top of that speaker, then you can do that. Okay, or you're out of school and you're taking a job, then you can do that. So we like to teach it now, though. Okay, so notice also in line 1, the dashes. There's a space after thought. So he said that he thought, there's a space. Notice that the dashes, there's 2 lines. So in court reporting, we always use 2 lines. You're going to strike that dash twice and then do another space. So after the dash, there's actually a space before it starts. He really thought that to be true. Okay, the second sentence, I am sure that it was Ted, dash, dash, Tom, who won the contest. So right there, they're just kind of changing the name. It must be my, dash, dash, your turn to dry the dishes. Number 4, I believe, dash, dash, I am confident that he will arrive on time. Number 5, he always buys the regular, dash, dash, the premium gasoline for his car. Number 6, we gave him $525, dash, dash, $550 for the ring. Number 7, I can't believe, dash, dash, I can't believe that it actually happened. That happens a lot where somebody will just repeat what they said. I can't believe that it actually happened. Okay, so those are our dashes. And again, if you have time, you just throw them in. O-E, O-E. Those are that's how we write our dashes. And again, if you don't have time to write your dashes and it's a test, when you're in the edit mode, you are going to know when you read this, I can't believe that it actually happened. It's going to be very evident that that person either repeated what they said or had a change of thought or changed a name like Ted to Tom. It's going to be very evident. So you're going to know where to put your dashes. The same goes at the end of a sentence. If I were to say, how long were you, and then let's say another attorney cut me off, then you would put dashes at the end of that sentence. And you can do that in the edit mode, or if you have time, throw it in before you hit the next sign change. And then if I were to get cut off and then the other attorney were to say, where was it that you worked? Well, then clearly I got cut off, so you would use dashes. Okay. Okay. Ooh, let's see here. It's trying to do an update. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and move on over to 40.4. We've got our new briefs. And again, this lesson is loaded with new briefs. So please take some extra time and get to know these briefs, practice them, and you want to feel comfortable before you move on. Okay? And even when you get into speeds, you're going to have a new brief packet each time you get into a new speed class. So if now my suggestion is if you're practicing briefs and you pick up on some and then you just don't like others, then just drop the ones that you don't like and write it out. So sometimes you know, a brief may stick with me and I really like it, but it may not work for you, and that's okay. So you're either going to just write it out or you may come up with your own little brief. But just don't go overboard with the briefs when you get into speeds, because you want to, there are some words, there's a lot of words that you're going to just write out, and that's okay. You don't want to have a brief for every single word, because then all those briefs get cluttered in your mind, and then what it will do is make you pause and have to think about the brief, and then by then the speaker is already 5 to 10 words ahead of where you stop to think about that brief. Okay, so we can only learn so many briefs at one time. All right, so remember that when you get into speeds, you're going to start hearing from different websites or from friends, or you know, if you know somebody that's a court reporter, oh, this is a great brief, and it may be, but just don't get overloaded. Take your time to learn each one, and if it doesn't stick, move on. Okay, so let's look at our briefs for this lesson. We've got agent, AGT, agency, AGS, boulevard, initial B, initial L, final F, final D. America's MERK, MERK. American, MERN, MERN. Automobile, AUBL. Authorize, THOR, short O. Authority, THORT. Authorization, THOR, final GS. So it's a lot like authorize, except you're throwing in the GS, the shun, for authorization. Then we've got juror, initial J, AOR, which makes sense. Juror. Okay, jury, initial J, UR. Identify, initial F, long I, phi. Evidence, EFD. Evident, EFT. Evidently, EFT, come back for LAE. Error, ROR. Roar. Not with a long O, or it would be roar. Emergency, initial M, final J. Damage, initial D, A, final J, DAJ. Certificate, SER. You don't want to use the T, that'd be cert, and that's how we write cert. Okay, actual, T, long UL. Actually, T, long UL. Come back for AE. That's the only difference. Come back for AE. Now, if you wanted to, some people have asked me, can you write it as T, long UL, come back for LAE? You can. But for now, in theory, just come back for AE. Okay? Then we have determine, DERM, derm. And then we have describe, SKR, long I. Now, don't use the B. A lot of times people want to use the B. That would be scribe. Okay, as in writing. So you don't want to write that with the B, scribe. Description, SKRIPGS, description. Hospital, HOPT, etc., ETS, etc. All right, looking on over, 40.5. Notice that brief drill is very long, the whole page, and that's because we have several new briefs in this lesson, getting you ready for speeds. So just make sure you separate each one with a comma. 40.6, we've got practice sentences, and I don't really need to explain anything. I think everything is self-explanatory. Covering our new briefs. 40.6 continues on the second page and again on the third page. So it's 2.5 pages of brief sentences. 40.7, we have a conflict review. Again, this is review for us, so it's nice that we have this. and just go over and review. Include this in your homework. Again, I'm going to say this, even though you're going into speeds, it's very important that you keep all of your theory lessons, all of your briefs, all of your lessons, everything that you've learned, because you are going to want to go back and practice theory. Go back and take your lessons, your handouts, and review them all the time. You never want to forget what you learned in theory. That is your foundation. And don't feel like, oh, I'm in speeds now. Now I can throw all this away. No, you never want to do that. I still go through my theory, still to this day. It just every time you go through it, it's like a refresher course. So don't ever throw them away. Put them in a binder and go through them when you're just sitting there. Go through your theory. Pick a lesson and go through all of the things that you learned in that lesson and your foundation. And it will just get stronger, okay? All right. Now, I'm going to give you one last Q&A practice. Again, I'm going to pick it up a little bit because I know you're getting ready for speeds. Now, this Q&A is going to actually start with defense. Okay, so you're just going to strike your if pelt question. Okay. All right. And the court will come in as well as plaintiff attorney. So it's good practice. All right. Here we go. And again, you don't want to move on from this lesson until you feel like you have this this Q&A down, okay? All right, here we go. Starting with defense. Ready? Miss Jensen, you were asked about the cash receipts of the 4 stores. Would you say that the sales figures were an accurate summary of the sales figures that were shown on the cash reports that came to you by email? Yes, sir, I would. Miss Jensen, will you tell us who kept the printed copies of the merchandise records in your office? I kept a copy of the printed merchandise records in my office. Miss Jensen, it is important that you speak up nice and loud so that the court reporter is able to hear everything that you say. Oh, yes, I am sorry, Your Honor. That is okay. All right. Now, where did you keep the copy of the printed merchandise records? They were kept in a special file. Did Mr. Webster or Mr. Henderson have access to those records? They would have had access to them, but they never looked at them while I was there. Did Mr. Jefferson have access to them also? Yes, sir. Did they ever look at them while you were there? Objection. Ambiguous. Sustained. Rephrase your question, Mr. Duff. Did Mr. Jefferson ever look at the records while you were there? Not while I was there. No, sir. How long were you with the company, Ms. Jensen? I was with the company for a little more than 3 years. What time did you start to work in the morning? I worked from 9 to 5 most days. Occasionally, I worked on Saturday from 9 to 12. Did you ever leave before Mr. Webster and Mr. Henderson left? Yes, sir. But most of the time, I would leave after they had gone. Who closed up the office? Mr. Rogers did. Was he also an employee? Yes, sir. Did he also have access to the merchandise records? Yes, sir. All right, so if you struggled with that, just go back, listen to it again. I want to point something out to you, and hopefully you have printed this off. If not, print it off. In the beginning, they refer to her as Miss Jensen. Now, if this were a test, you would get the spelling of the names. You may not get Miss because it would be up to you to make sure and write Miss, but you definitely would get Jensen. But notice at the end of this, he refers to her, actually, I think it's the court. Yes, the court says, how long were you with the company, Ms. Jensen? So in that case, it would be M final Z, which refers to MS period. So you need to write exactly as you hear. If you hear Miss, you write Miss. If you hear Ms., you write Ms. Even if they flip-flop back and forth, it doesn't matter. It's what you hear, and you write what you hear. Okay? Also, if you struggled with this, I want you to go through and underline all of the phrases, such as about the, of the, that were, on the, to you, anything like that. Underline those. Go through, practice them. Practice all those phrases as you're looking at the sheet. Then listen to it again and watch how much better it will be for you, especially if you didn't phrase a lot. You need to make sure that you phrase all of those very basic phrases. That, you, up the, that, the, did you, in a, all of those phrases you've learned in theory. That's going to make a huge difference. So make sure you phrase all the simple phrases, even if it means going back and practicing those, underlining those, practicing those, and then listen to it again. Okay, so if that were a test, I would give you, the attorneys' names, and but it's up to you to make sure that you are correctly identifying what attorney is speaking, so you know what to change that sign change to. All right, so that concludes lesson 40. I have a little bit of read back on some of our contractions. I don't have a whole lot for lesson 40, but take your time before you choose to watch the read back portion, and then we have our final, and theory is completed for you. So you're almost there. All right, we'll see you soon. Have a great day.